Well, this is STEM 43. We're going to be looking at the ethical issues that are related to improving performance. We're going to be paying particular attention to the use of drugs and looking at these 4 areas here, or 5 areas: the danger of performance-enhancing drugs, looking at drugs for strength, for aerobic performance, and to mask other drugs, and also some of the benefits and limitations of drug testing. Now, there's a fair bit of information here, so I really need the students to pay attention and to maybe watch it a couple of times to get a feel for it. So first of all, just looking at the use of actual drugs or using drugs itself to enhance performance. So the practice of using artificial substances or methods to enhance athletic performance is called doping. Doping is considered unethical by most international sports organisations, the main reasons being the health threat of performance-enhancing drugs, the equality of opportunity of the athletes, the exemplary effect of a clean, doping-free sport in the public, and the illegal use in the general community. There may be several reasons for athletes to use performance-enhancing drugs. They may want to build muscle mass strength, muscles and bones, increase the delivery of oxygen, mask the pain, reduce weight, and hide any other use or hide the actual use of drugs. This picture here just shows you some of the things on the previous page. So looking here at some of the reasons why they may want to use drugs, they can be broken up into these areas here. So for stimulants, so to build muscle, relaxants, mask the pain, increase oxygen delivery, reduce weight, and mask other drugs. And we're going to go through some of these as we progress through the PowerPoint. But just to get an idea, looking at things, stimulants, which speeds up the central nervous systems, caffeine, amphetamines, cocaine, to mask other drugs. You think of Shane Warne, diuretics, reduce weight, diuretics, increase oxygen delivery, EPO, blood doping. We're going to go through some of those. Relaxants, the beta blockers, which help slow down the heart rate. Build muscle, obviously our anabolic steroids, and HGH, human growth hormone. So the first thing, you're looking at the dangers of performance-enhancing drug use. So looking at some of the physical effects, the loss of reputation, sponsorship, and income. So athletes know that training is the best path to victory, but they also understand that some drugs and other practices can boost their efforts and offer a shortcut. Athletes can be lured into using performance-enhancing drugs because of getting that contract or getting that lucrative sponsorship deal. The emphasis that's placed upon them by society for looking at success in sport. Some of these banned drugs can speed up the recovery they get from an injury, which means they can be back training at a quicker pace. And some also believe that other people are using drugs as well, so I might as well use them to make myself competitive, and everyone else is doing it. Some athletes desire to win so much that they are willing to use any means, such as cheating, to gain the success. And some of the coaches may push drug use to enhance their own ability. So, because if the team's using drugs and they're performing well, then obviously that looks better for the coach. So, for whatever reason an athlete wants to use drugs, performance-enhancing drugs can carry serious risks for them. So, things such as suspension or banishment from the sport, stripping of their records, diminishing of the reputation in the sport, and a life-threatening medical complication. And we look at some of these things here. We can think about different athletes, especially in the Olympics, that have had gold medals. Marion Jones, for example, stripped off them. There's still things going on at the moment about people being banned from running. Dwayne Chambers was banned for running for a number of years because of illegal drugs found in his system. There's just a couple of examples there. Some of the physical effects. So athletes take drugs to make their muscles bigger, recover from hard training sessions at a quicker pace, increase blood volume and oxygen carrying capacity, and reduce pain and speed up or slow down the central nervous system. And we've already seen that going back to our previous couple of pages before the table. The aggressive feelings that come from taking certain drugs may also make them appealing to various athletes. While giving the athlete an unfair advantage over others, there are many physical harms that come from the use of these drugs, as many athletes may take these drugs at doses that are significantly higher than they should be taking or that are prescribed. Harmful effects can be magnified. When we talk about reputation, so sport is considered to be an important part of life. Many countries have built their reputation around their sporting successes. Sport is considered to be enjoyable and fair. When the aim about winning at all costs, the reputation of countries, individuals, and the sport itself can be tarnished. If we think about cycling, weightlifting, and athletics, they've already achieved this unwanted status of the reputation of the sports being destroyed. Improved performances and victories may be tainted by questions raised about the legitimacy of some athletes, and the easy example there will be Lance Armstrong. A number of people that are questioning his training and his drug testing and if he was off on drugs or not. Sponsorship and income. Millions of dollars are invested in sport by governments and sponsors. The suspicion of illegal drug use in sports may also tarnish the reputation of sports and associated individuals that funding and sponsorships are withdrawn. So companies are pulling money out of it because they think of people have been on drugs. This can result in sport finding it difficult to grow, and some competitions may be lost. Cycling has found itself in the situation where its premier event, the Tour de France, has been tarnished by riders using a variety of drugs to gain advantage, EPO, which we'll look at shortly. Whole teams have folded after sponsorships have been removed because of drug testing. And teams have also found it difficult to attract sponsorship as companies maintain that cycling teams are a marketing nightmare because of the drugs or the cloud that surrounds the drug use. So we're going to have a look at here, first of all, for strength. Remember, if we went back to our... So we look here, we talk about, so for strength, we're going to break up the use of drugs for strength, for aerobic performance, and to mask other drugs. So the first we're going to look at here is strength, human growth hormone, and anabolic steroids. So the first one being human growth hormone, or HGH. This is naturally produced by the body in the pituitary gland. It stimulates the body's synthesis of the proteins that form bone and muscle tissue, decreases body fat, and increases testosterone levels. Because it increases this testosterone levels, that's where we get our increase in strength. HGH stimulates the growth of muscle, cartilage and bone, and so increases muscle size. Competitors in events that require power and short bursts of explosive strength would be most likely to benefit from taking HGH. It also allows tired muscles to recover quickly, which enables an athlete to train harder again. Some of the side effects of using HGH would be the overgrowth of hands, feet and face, which is known as acromegaly because of the increased muscle, enlarged internal organs, especially the heart, kidneys, tongue, liver, and also increased heart problems. So I've just got a picture here showing you some examples of hands from someone who's taking HGH. Just shows the size in which they've grown. Anabolic steroids is another one for strength. So anabolic steroids build muscle and bone mass primarily by stimulating the muscle and bone cells to make new protein. These substances can be injected or taken as a pill. Athletes use anabolic steroids because they increase muscle strength by encouraging new muscle growth. Anabolic steroids are similar in structure to the male sex hormone testosterone, so they enhance male reproduction and secondary sex characteristics. And they allow the athlete to train harder and longer at any given period and are commonly used in strength and power events. So still looking at anabolic steroids, drugs can stimulate hair growth of the face and body, suppress or interfere with the menstrual cycle in women, possibly leading to infertility, so unable to have children, thicken the vocal cords, which causes the voice to deepen, possibly permanently, and if pregnant, can interfere with the developing fetus. So these are some of the issues that can be faced by athletes who are taking anabolic steroids, whether they're male or female. We'll look at some drugs now that athletes may take for aerobic performance. And the first one we're going to look at here is EPO. So erythropoietin, which is EPO, is naturally occurring protein hormone that is secreted by the kidneys during low oxygen conditions. EPO stimulates the bone marrow stem cells to make red blood cells, which increases the delivery of oxygen to the kidney. Endurance athletes use EPO to increase oxygen absorption, reduce fatigue, and improve endurance by increasing the rate of red cell production. So we know that up here, that in the bone marrow, EPO helps to make more red blood cells. So in an endurance event, if there's more red blood cells in the body, there's more oxygen being moved around to the muscles. Therefore, they're not going to fatigue as quick, so they can perform for longer because they've got more red blood cells. And it's going to improve their endurance. It is also believed the EPO increases the metabolism and the healing process of muscles because the extra red blood cells carry more oxygen and nutrients, so they can recover quicker. And in someone who has normal levels of red blood cells, the use of EPO can lead to increased thickening of the blood, causing clotting, thrombosis, heart attack, and stroke. So because someone might have normal levels of red blood cells, therefore they get more red blood cells by taking EPO. Therefore, the blood becomes a lot thicker, harder to move around the body, puts more pressure on the heart, can lead to clotting and to the stroke. And here's some things, picture on EPO, obviously cycling being the main one. Very similar to EPO is blood doping. So blood doping refers to the methods of increasing the oxygen carrying capacity of blood in order to boost aerobic performance. This is typically accomplished by withdrawing blood, isolating the oxygen carrying red blood cells in the solution, and then retransfusing the cells prior to competition, thereby increasing the body's supply of red blood cells. Blood doping is used in endurance sports such as cycling, distance running, and cross-country skiing. So what happens is, a normal adult might have 6 to 7 litres of blood. They take out a proportion of the blood by needle and a syringe. Therefore, the blood is then reformed in the body. It's an ongoing cycle. Then just prior to competition, they use injection again. They put the blood back into the athlete's body, so there's a higher level of red blood cells than should be. Therefore, more oxygen carrying capacity, more oxygen going to the muscles, they can perform for longer. So the next one we're going to look here is to mask other drugs. So this one we're looking at diuretics and alcohol. So these are the masking agents. So masking agents are prohibited as they are products that have the potential to impair the excretion of prohibited substances. They are used to conceal their presence in urine or other samples used in doping control, or to change the hematological or blood parameters. And the most common one we all know about will be Shane Warne. And this article here, which you never read about, just talks about how Shane Warne recovered from a shoulder injury quite quickly, came back, was tested, and was found to have had levels or substances known as diuretics in his body, which he took, or a diuretic, a motoretic, which was used obviously to cover other use of drugs in his system. So Shane Warne is one that takes diuretics. Diuretics are classified as masking agents and can be used to control weight or mask the use of other drugs. They are used by athletes who participate in sports such as weightlifting, horse racing and rowing, where there are weight restrictions. Diuretics increase the amount of urine produced and have been placed on the prohibited list for some time because of two reasons. The diuretic facilitate weight loss via their ability to enhance rapid water loss via urine, and diuretics have the potential to rapidly dilute the urine by increasing renal flow. So therefore, they can't really test the urine correctly to see what sort of substances may exist. When utilised as a masking agent, diuretics dilute the urine, which results in lower levels of banned substances being excreted from the body. This can therefore make it more difficult for the laboratories conducting doping controls to detect. Some of the side effects from diuretics would obviously include dehydration, dizziness, cramps, heart damage, and kidney failure. Alcohol is a depressant. It slows down activity on the central nervous system, including the brain. Depressants affect concentration and coordination, and it slows the response time. Alcohol can have the same masking effect as a diuretic by diluting the urine. Alcohol intake impacts negatively on a variety of psychomotor skills essential for successful performance, including reaction time, balance, and hand-eye coordination. The impact of alcohol binging has a variety of short and long-term effects for the athlete. Some of the short-term effects of binging on alcohol would be dehydration, slower decision-making abilities, and the exacerbation of the soft tissue injury. So increasing blood flow, more or the injury becomes worse. Some of the indirect effects on athletes from binge drinking would be being distracted from carrying out appropriate recovery strategies, relaxing attitudes towards certain foods, usually ones they may not eat, so junk food they're going to eat a bit more, failing to follow appropriate injury rehabilitation and management, and obviously an increased risk of being involved in brawls or fights because of the risk of violence that may come with alcohol. Some of the benefits and limitations of drug testing. So effective drug testing programs are difficult and extremely costly to maintain. So there's the first concern, is that they're very costly. One reason is that new performance-enhancing drugs are constantly being developed, so they have to try and stay one step ahead. That's where the costs come from. Some performance-enhancing drugs are more difficult to detect than others. Elevated levels of EPO, for instance, do not remain in the blood for long, making it hard to test for. Testosterone and EPO are both naturally found in the body. That if an athlete has an abnormally high level of these chemicals due to certain physiological factors, the athlete may test positive even though no illegal drug was used. The Australian Sports Anti-Doping Authority, ASADA, is the primary anti-doping authority in Australia, and as in such, is responsible for testing athletes for banned substances, whether that be in competition or out of competition. Strict protocols apply in relation to notifying athletes that they are required to provide a sample. Athletes under the age of 18 must be accompanied by a parent or guardian, along with an ASADA representative. Although there is limited statistical evidence on how widespread doping is, athletes and coaches stress that most competitors do not take drugs. Drug testing is becoming an increasing integral part of sports competition, as we can see by the recent Olympics. And as new performance-enhancing drugs are developed, new tests are developed to detect these drugs. And the struggle to keep sports clean continues indefinitely. And that's where a lot of the cost comes from, is that as drugs are being developed, new tests have to be developed, and that's an extremely costly process. So this page here, boys, I'm going to photocopy it and give it to each of the boys in the class. So it just goes through some of the drugs that I've spoke about in the last couple of slides, give a bit of a description for what they are, and some of the harms that's associated with it. I'm going to photocopy that for you. And just the last part here is